That's Dion with Abraham, Martin and John here on 2DU 13 to 8. Dion, or it's Dion, isn't it? Someone I should ask that is from that era is Mayor Matthew Dickerson. Good morning to you.
I like the idea of what you were discussing before, maybe the Silver Fox, the barbershop quartet.
You fancy yourself a bit of a cappella singer, do you?
Not at all, no, but I like the sound of that. That sounds good. You and I, we've got half right here.
That's right.
We could start right now.
They're after a couple of rejects. The two Matts.
That's right. What more could you ask for? Forget about talent and singing.
Lots of serious stuff to talk about today, Mr. Mayor. I want to start with the fluoride in the water. Now, here's my little sheet here. This came from Council yesterday. Update on the fluoride in the water. It's gone to tenders. They were closed on the 28th of Feb. That's 10 days ago. Council is now looking through those. Any reason why it takes 10 days to start going through tenders?
Well, I actually thought at one stage we were going to actually bring those to our committee meetings that we had last night. And for whatever reason, the staff didn't think it was quite ready to go there. It depends on what the tenders are. If it's a fairly simple tender, you'd expect them to be able to look at that pretty quickly and then bring the information to council to have those decisions made. This is a fairly important one. I imagine the pricing is up around $1.5 to $2 million. I don't know yet, haven't seen them, but I imagine that there's a fairly exhaustive process you need to go through to obviously find the best tenderer. And you also have to make sure that any tenderer can actually do the job. So it's not just a matter of, oh gee, look at that, they're the cheapest, let's go with them. Give Jimmy a ring, Jimmy's fluoride services are us, and quick, get in and get the job done.
He's got no runs on the board.
He's got no runs on the board, or the financial capacity as well. So you might have someone who's got some great projects on the board at a much smaller scale, and then they want to ramp it up, which is great businesses, you want them to grow, but you want to make sure they've got the financial capacity. So there's a fair bit of investigation that's needed there. Obviously, our target is still 30 June. That's the target that we're working towards. So once we award a tender to a successful business there, then that'll be working away towards that target.
All right, so what's that? All of March, April, May, June. So 4 months away, essentially, thereabouts. Do you know how many tenders were put forward?
No, and I haven't seen that information yet, and it's probably inappropriate for me to see that until it comes to council. So now, again, the meeting last night, the next meeting we'll have the opportunity to look at tenders will be in a fortnight's time. So I imagine, and again, I'll chase it up after you've had this discussion now, but I'll chase it up to make sure that will be coming through to the council meeting, the next council meeting.
All right, let's turn the page and talk about something you put up on social media recently, which was about special rate variations, suggesting that there weren't going to be any for Dubbo Council, but goodness me, if you're in the Tenterfield LGA, you're probably not too impressed at the moment. 104% increase. Mr. Mayor, what is a special rate variation, and what does it mean for residents?
You've got your rates that you pay each year, and typically the state government will say, here is the amount that councils across the state can put the rates up by as a maximum amount, and that's called rate pegging. Now, rate pegging is meant to keep it about CPI level. So it might be 2%, 3%, given the fact that CPI is a bit higher than that at the moment, but say it's around that sort of amount each year. If a council, any council across the state, decides that it needs a higher rate rise than the standard rate pegging amount, standard CPI type amount, then they can ask for a special rate variation. In all my time on council, I first got into council way back in 2004, there's only one that I can recollect that we had a special rate variation for, and that was for a special rate increase for the theatre, for our Double Regional Theatre and Convention Centre, the tiered theatre there. There was a lot of community support around that, and so that was discussed for a number of years. When we finally said, yes, we think it's worthwhile, we need to pay for that. How do we pay for that? And so over 2 years, we had a 2.5% increase over, so 2.5% one year, 2.5% the next year, as a way to pay for that.
As well as the CPI.
As well as whatever the rate pegging amount was.
So Tenterfield suggesting 104% increase over 2 years. That's essentially doubling their rates.
Correct.
Ouch.
That's
Is that
right.
each year?
They're going for that as of the 1st of July this year. If that's successful, 1st of July this year, your rates would go up, I don't know the exact amount each year, but let's say it is 50% this year and 50% next year. So if you were paying $1,000 in your rates this year, then next year you pay $1,500, the following year you pay $2,000. So it's a fairly steep increase. But there's some councils, as you said before, that little list that I put up has got some councils with some fairly steep increases there, and there's a process to go through. So the way I can say, people say, oh, are you just building us up to then spring it onto the last minute? Well, I can say categorically, there's a process you need to go through, and we needed to have started that process several months ago. The reason I can put those figures up on social media is because I know those councils started that process at the end of last year.
Right, and as you said on there, this definitely Dubbo will not have a special rate variation. Tenterfield going up 104%. Sorry to be stuck on this, but is there something happening in that region, to your knowledge, that it is going up so much?
When I read through some of the brief reports that are going through, read through all these individual councils, every detailed report they had, it really was just to fix up infrastructure, just to make sure their infrastructure was at a correct standard, i.e. roads, for example, with all the damage that occurs to roads across the state, across New South Wales, across the eastern seaboard.
But that's right across the state, though.
Correct.
We've had that.
That's right. And so some councils, and I've actually talked to a couple of these mayors, I didn't actually know the exact amounts, but I've talked to a couple of these mayors in the last few months saying that they were going for fairly steep SRVs, and they basically said they just couldn't see any other way they could get the roads back to some sort of reasonable condition without some of these rate rises. Now what we're trying to do here in Dubbo is to try and work out ways we can get our road infrastructure back to where it should be without doing a special rate variation, and that's the target. As I said, there's no way
state government, federal government chipping in.
Well, a range of things. We've got the renewable energy zone as well, and we think that's a bit of an advantage for us in being able to, I suppose, work with the proponents there to say that you've got to do some work on some of the roads. Is there a way that doing work on some of those roads means that we can take care of some of the things that we might have had to otherwise pay for? So let's take advantage of that renewable energy zone. We're also working with maybe borrowing money to go and fix some road infrastructure that we know that developers, as they come through, will have to pay some of that back. Yeah, so there's various things we're working on, and yes, we've received some money. The 9.23 million from the state government for the Northwest Precinct for getting some accelerated infrastructure there, that helps us. Not so much that there's damage to the roads there, but if we can use state government money for that, then our money we could use for other areas we might have otherwise had to put into that particular area, for example. So you keep working on different angles. At this stage, absolutely categorically no. 1st of July this year, there'll be a rate increase of some description, but it'll be more like a CPI rate increase rather than any SRV.
So further to that, besides the CPI increase for the next 2 years, Dubbo Regional Council, no special rate variations?
Again, at this stage, we've got no plans for any special rate variations. It might happen in the future. I can't say categorically no ever, obviously. There'll be new councillors, different mayors, a whole range of things might come up. But at this stage, our plan is to try and work out ways to make our budget balanced without having to get some sort of special rate variation.
Well done sitting on the fence there, Mr Mayor.
Well, I can say categorically no. For the 1st of July this year, your rates will go up, but it'll be
just
more like a CPI amount. Yeah.
All right, appreciate that. Mr Mayor, appreciate your updates and enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend. Any big plans?
Always big plans, Matt, always big plans. Just got to go and tune up my voice to Duck Out and Narromine.
That's right, the two Matts on tour across Dubbo. It's the big O now.